What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing my top 5 takeaways from UFC 305. And there's a lot of good takeaways. This card was absolutely phenomenal, delivered way above my expectations. I had good expectations, but this card really delivered. Great to have a card like this in the books. Hopefully many more, hopefully this type of level of card continues the trend. So hopefully UFC 306 in the sphere is just like this one, because this card was fantastic. But let's get to the number 5 takeaway. Carlos Prates needs a top 15 matchup, and I wouldn't mind top 10. The way he just knocked out the Leech was just, it was kind of depressing to see, but it was also like beautiful in a way. It was just magnificent. And he could have TKO'd him in the first round if he wanted to, but he was hunting that walk-off finish, and he got it. He got everything he wanted. He toyed with the Leech. He toyed with Li Jingliang for the entire fight and walk-off KO'd him. First time the Leech has ever been knocked out, and he got knocked out stiff. That was a brutal knockout right there. So unbelievable win from Carlos Prates. I want to see him against a top 15 guy, even top 10. Looking at the rankings. I mean, Kevin Holland, I know he's booked. He'd fuck up Kevin Holland. Holland's a bum. Him versus Michael Venom Page would be really interesting. Prates Page would be awesome. Neil Magny, I think, is booked. I mean, he destroyed Neil Magny. I don't even want to see that. We already know who's going to win that. Maybe he gets the winner of Thompson Buckley. That'd be really interesting. That'd be a fun fight. I think he beats both those guys. I mean, just unbelievable win from Prates. I want to see him in against a top 15 guy, and I'd be down with a top 10 guy. Moving on to the number 4 reason. Kai Kara France needs to fight for the title, and it has to happen. I know that Amir Abazi technically has a win over him, even though that fight was super controversial. I know the UFC just signed Kai Asakara, and he's probably going to get the next title shot. So I'm guessing Kai's going to get it, or Asakara's going to get it. But after Asakara gets it, you got to give it to Kai Kara France. I'd rather have Kai Kara France get it right now, because I think he has the best shot to beat Pantoja. Pantoja gets hit in all his fights. He's not super young. He's been in a lot of wars. And Kai Kara France has the power to knock out Pantoja. I want to see that fight. That was a statement performance against Steve Erceg. And listen, everyone was overrating Steve Erceg. If you look at the film, it made sense that Kai Kara was going to be a bad matchup for Erceg, because Erceg gets hit in every fight. I'm against Alessandro Costa or whatever. He's getting, dude has mini arms, and he's nailing the chin of Steve Erceg. So that's why I picked Kai Kara. He needs to fight for the title next, and I think I'd pick him against Pantoja. I'm not sure yet, but I think I'd pick him to TKO Pantoja. I just don't think Pantoja's chin is going to be able to handle the power from Kai Kara France over 5 rounds, and France has really good anti-grappling. So I think Pantoja would be able to have a little bit of success with his grappling, but it won't be enough for him to win the fight. I'd probably pick Kai Kara France by 3rd, 4th round TKO, honestly, but I'm not sure yet. But that fight needs to happen. Moving up to my number 3 takeaway. Howie Booth needs to be fired immediately. He can never judge a fight ever again. I don't care if it's in 10 years, in 20 years, he can never do it again. The 30-27 for Tai Tuivasa is one of the worst scorecards, if not the worst I've ever seen. No, I'm going to say it is the worst. And the judges were kind of all over the place tonight, but this one, and I'm highlighting this one because it just... How do you give Tai a 30-27? How? Jairzinho Rozenstruik literally beat the dog shit out of him for 3 straight rounds, and somehow you're like, oh, Tai landed 2 solid shots per round. Yeah, he won every round. This makes no sense. I'm glad this man was taken off of judging for the rest of the card. And the dude, I forgot his name, who gave, forgot the judge's name, of course, but he gave the first round for Tai Tuivasa, I believe. Get him off for year 2. How do you give any round to Tai Tuivasa? That stuff was unacceptable. It can never happen again. This is ruining the integrity of the sport if we keep having dumbass judges like this judging these fights. These fights impact people's legacies, their careers. Cannot be messing up like this. And this is the worst scorecard I've ever seen in my life. So it's unacceptable. Glad they pulled him. Pull him for the rest of his career. He should never judge a fight in the UFC again. And the dude who gave round 1 for Tai, I don't want him judging a fight ever again either. That shit was ridiculous. But just had to say that. Moving on to the number 2 takeaway. And these are really the takeaways that, to me, really hit different. Adesanya, I don't think will ever be champion again. In fact, I'm going to say I know he's never going to be champion again. I just can't see it happening. This was his best time to beat DDP. It's, his best time to take advantage against Dricus. Dricus is 30. He's only going to get better. Maybe he's 31, but same thing. He's only going to get better. Adesanya, is 35, soon to be 36. And I thought Adesanya looked really good. But Izzy's going to have to go win at least one fight, probably two. Now, I could see them running this back, especially if the UFC went to South Africa. If they book Izzy Strickland 2 and Izzy knocks out Sean Strickland, a lot of people aren't going to like this, but they're going to probably give him another title shot. They're going to run that back. And I might get flack for this. Let's say this is after Hamzat fights for the title and Dricus beats him, let's say. And then who knows what Nasruddin Armanov's doing in this scenario. Obviously, we have to see how things play out. But if Israel Adesanya knocked out Strickland, I really wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, especially if it was in South Africa, because having two African guys like that would be really cool. And I think a second fight's pretty compelling because Adesanya looked really good in this fight. But that's what makes DDP even more impressive because Adesanya looked great and he still lost. So I just don't think he ever becomes champion again, though. Even if he gets back into the title fight against Dricus, I think Dricus finishes him again. I think while Izzy, I think, is slightly on the decline, DDP's just rising up. He's only getting better. And he's already so good right now. And I can't see Adesanya getting his hands on a belt again, which is crazy because I feel like for as long as I've been a fan Adesanya has been that guy. He's been the dude at the top of the middle division. And if he's not been the champ, he's been the number one guy. Lost to Pereira, came back, knocked him out cold. He's always been at the top and he's put on a lot of great performances. And I feel like he gets a lot of hate. I get it. He's cringy as hell. I think he's kind of a weird dude. And I don't think Adesanya, is doing a lot of the things that people say he's doing to his dogs. But the videos of him feeding his dog, I don't even want to describe how he's feeding the dog, and all the touching the dog. He's definitely puts himself out there where you have to ask, if you're showing this Adesanya, what are you doing behind closed doors then? You got to ask the question. And obviously, as I said, I think that stuff gets overblown a little bit. But Adesanya, I get why people don't like him. He's kind of a weird guy. I'm not saying he is a weird guy, a little bit cringy, but at the end of the day, when Adesanya's gone, we're going to miss him. Super active champion, never ducked anyone. He always wanted to fight the best in the world. And I know some of his fights were boring, but overall, his fighting style was really good. His knockout over Pereira is probably the greatest live, knockout I've ever seen in my life, especially live. It was amazing. So if this is it for Adesanya at the top, he had an amazing run. He's probably the second greatest middleweight of all time. And, his legacy, no matter if people want to shit on it or not, his legacy is in stone. Total Hall of Famer, unbelievable resume. And who knows? Maybe he knocks out a guy like Strickland or someone else and gets back in the title picture. Who knows? Even if he does do that, though, I don't see him becoming champion. Moving up to the number one takeaway. I think DDP might be unbeatable. I think Dricus might be unstoppable, guys. And I've been one of the, I've been really high on Dricus. The only fight I didn't pick Dricus in was the Whittaker fight. And keep in mind, no one picked him in that fight. So I get a pass there. But I picked him against Strickland. I picked him against Adesanya. Even though he's been, has such a weird, unorthodox, quirky, sloppy, kind of shit-looking style, it's the best style in the middleweight division. And I don't think anyone beats him. And I think one of the main things that Dricus has going for him is not only that he has extreme power, not only is his striking goofy looking, but ultra effective. He always lands on the chin. His grappling is good. His jiu-jitsu is good. I said a little overrated, I think, but still, it's very effective. And we saw that be very effective in this last fight against Adesanya. Dricus du Plessis truly is willing to die in there. He truly is. And there's a lot of people that say that. A lot of people that flex, Sean Strickland, to war, and he's the most boring striker I've ever seen in my life. Never seen more people, just more fans get behind such a boring fighter like Sean Strickland and just act like he's God or something. Never seen it before in my life. But Sean Strickland, if DDP is who Sean Strickland kind of talks about. Like when Sean's like, we're going to war to the death. That's what DDP actually does. And I truly believe him. When he says he's willing to die out there, I believe him. And I think that helps him in a lot of these fights. I think he just outwills his opponent, combined with all the other skills he has. Combine that he's making Strickland cry for a month. He's making Adesanya cry. He's the best trash talker in the sport by leaps and bounds. He roasted Pereira when Pereira was teased about what they asked him in the press conference when Pereira posted that stuff on Instagram about coming down. Dricus was just like he's like, whoa, he's like, my man, like if Adesanya is stiffing you like that, you don't want to be in there with me. And I'm like, dude is such a beast. I've been saying he's the best trash talker forever. He breaks people at the press conference. And it's awesome because, unlike Colby who wants to go make up a ton of stuff for it, Dricus breaks these people with facts. He breaks these people with facts, and then he breaks them in the octagon with his fighting. And his IQ, his fight IQ is amazing. His coach, the main reason why I picked him in this fight is the adjustments he was going to be able to make in between rounds and his fight IQ and, his corner. That was that was probably the biggest factor why I picked him. When you have a great game plan and you have a guy who's willing to go out there and die like Dricus du Plessis, you're almost unbeatable. And I really hope we get to see him versus Pereira. That would be a lot of fun. Get rid of Clear Roundtree, make that fight UFC 307 at 185, tell Pereira to cut down, put him against DDP. I think if Alex Pereira doesn't knock DDP out in 1 minute, DDP takes him down, beats the living dog shot him, submits him. And I think I said this in my last video, I could see Dricus knocking him out. I think Dricus has as much power in his hands as Pereira does at 185. I think he hits just as hard. So and Pereira's chin is not nearly as good at 185 as it is at 205, and it's not nearly as good as Dricus' chin. So I could see Dricus knocking him out too. I think Dricus could win that fight in almost every way he wanted to. Obviously, he just wouldn't want a striking battle, but I could see him knocking him out though, but he should prioritize the grappling. But now, God, I really want that fight to happen, guys. I really want that fight to happen. If they're not doing Magomed Pereira, give us that fight to be excited about. But back to the main point, and the main takeaway, I should say. Dricus du Plessis is just a complete deal, and he beats everyone, in the middleweight division. Khamzat, after the first round, I don't see Khamzat having a chance. I don't think I don't even see him having that much success in the first round. I could see him winning it, but he's not going to be able to impose his will on a Dricus like, he might do the Whitaker. He's done to, other people like Usman. I know Usman's insane, but Dricus is just a bigger guy. He's way better on the feet. And I think at this moment in time, I think he's just a lot better fighter than Kamaru Usman. And I see, and if anything, if anyone's going to be imposing anyone's will on anyone in that fight, it's going to be Dricus imposing his will on Khamzat. And by the way, when you watch the Khamzat-Gilbert Burns fight, Gilbert Burns is nailing Khamzat with big shots a lot of times. Khamzat's not eating those shots with DDP throwing them. It's just not happening. DDP hits like a truck. You aren't taking those shots. He has too much power and you can't do anything about it. So, given some, small breakdowns for future Dricus fights and why I think he wins them, because as I said, I think he's unbeatable right now. And it's just, I almost want to start laughing about it because his style is so quirky looking that you just wouldn't think it's the case, but he truly is the full package. He is everything. He can do everything, and he is a genius of a coach behind him, and because of that, he is the best fight IQ outside of John Jones in the entire UFC. And John Jones is barely active, so you know what? Dricus has the best fight IQ in the entire UFC. I'll say it right now. When John Jones comes back, I can change it. But right now, since he's barely active, one fight in the last 3-4 years, and he's fighting old man Stipe, who doesn't have a win in 4 years, Dricus du Plessis is the best fight IQ in the business. He has the best coaching corner in the business when it comes to game planning, making adjustments, and he is willing to go out there and die for what he wants. That is why he's unbeatable. Take away all his funny style and all that. That mindset and the people he has around him, his camp, is why he's unbeatable. And I cannot wait to see who he fights next. Hopefully it's a win of Whitaker and Khamzat. I don't want him versus Strickland. I think he finishes Strickland. I don't want that fight though. I want Strickland to fight again. Preferably I want him to fight Adesanya again. I think that fight would be really cool. And Strickland recently said that Adesanya's not that good. So yeah, prove it again, beat him again. And I know he's already beat him, but I want to see that fight again. So let me know what your guys' top 5 takeaways are. Let me know who you think DDP should fight next. And make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.